Year 3, so I've got a really interesting piece of creative writing for you today where you're really going to get to think about your emotions because that's kind of the theme for the English lessons today. Before we start, I just want to remind the Jade and Indigo groups, since you did your work with Mr. Goodall this morning, you don't need to do this writing work. If you want to, you're welcome to have a go because I would love to see you do a bit of writing like this. But if you would prefer to take a break or carry on with your other lessons, you can, since you've already done some writing work with Mr. Goodall. Everybody else have a pencil and paper ready and write down this date and LI, which is over here. So today the date is the 7th of May 2020 and our LI is to use emotive language. And I'm going to explain what the word emotive means in a second. So pause the video, write that down. Also, I noticed there's a mistake there. It should say Year 3 writing, not reading and grammar. Whoops, excuse me for that. Okay, so hopefully you've written down the date and LI. And let's have a quick discussion about what the word emotive means. When you were reading Evie in the Jungle, you had to use your empathy to understand how the characters felt. But the writer also did a really good job of making you understand how they were feeling by using emotive language. Emotive language is language that kind of suggests to the reader how the character is feeling and almost makes them feel that same feeling. So it helps the reader to empathise by communicating the emotions very well. So all emotive really means is it makes you feel how the person writing is feeling, or it makes you feel a specific feeling that the writer wants you to feel. So today we're going to be thinking about writing a diary entry or writing a piece of writing, communicating some very strong emotions. So I want you to imagine that you get to meet your hero. So this is the person that you wrote about the other day, someone you think is amazing, that you've always admired, and you were so looking forward to seeing them, and you were nervous and excited, but then you met them, and they weren't how you expected them to be at all. Imagine they actually really disappointed you. Like maybe you were going to meet your favourite footballer and you thought they would be really fun and be laughing with you and be really smiley, but they were actually really quiet and they didn't say anything. Or maybe you met your favourite dancer and then you saw them in real life and you realised actually they're not a very good dancer. Imagine being so disappointed and how you would feel if you had your expectations so high and you were so happy and they just got crushed. We're going to be writing from the perspective as if you just met that person today. So imagine that happened today. And I want you to write in your diary entry about how that made you feel. And I want you to use the type of language so that when I read it, I can really empathise, I can really understand how you felt because you've explained it so well by using really emotive language. This might sound a bit wishy-washy to you, so let's take a look at an example I did of some emotive language. So as you remember, my hero was called Stephen Fry, or he is called Stephen Fry, and I imagined that I met him when I went to a book signing. So a book signing is when authors actually go to a place and you can take your book there and then they'll sign it for you right there and you can actually meet them and say hello. Notice as well that the word autograph is a prefix word. It's got the prefix auto in it. So autograph is a graph, is something that you write, that's what the graph part means, of yourself. So your autograph is your own signature, isn't it? When you write it for somebody else, it's your own signature. So here's my diary entry. I'm going to read it through and then as we go along, I'm going to point out some of the emotive language that I've used. Dear diary, today was a dreadful day. Now this is already a use of powerful emotive language. I didn't say it was a bad day, I said it was a dreadful day. So I'm really showing the person reading it that it was even way worse than usual. Then I'll carry on. It might have been the worst day of my entire life. So I said of my entire life, not just of my life, of my entire life. I'm really emphasising my point here. I thought it was going to be the best day, because today I went to meet my hero, Stephen Fry, at a book signing. I was tingling with nerves while I waited in the queue to get his autograph. So here I'm describing how I felt before I met him. I was really tingling with nerves, so I'm almost describing my feelings as a physical sensation in my body. Hopefully you can really imagine what it feels like to be tingling with nerves, so that is an example of emotive language that helps you to understand how I was feeling. My hands were sweating and my legs felt weak. Then my turn came, and I finally got to see him in real life. But he didn't even smile at me. Now, I've used an exclamation, that's an example of emotive language, and I've put something in capital letters for emphasis. A lot of you are very good at doing this in order to really show when something's like, really want to emphasize it. He barely looked up, and he only spoke to me in a rude, boring voice that made me want to cry. So when I'm talking about the fact that his voice made me want to cry, that is emotive, because I'm really explaining how I was feeling. I was so upset that I wanted to cry. Here you go, he said. I was horrified. Horrified is like, it was terrible. I was so shocked. I was shocked in a bad way. That's what horrified be. That's a powerful example of a word that is emotive. I had expected him to be kind and funny, but instead he was utterly uninterested. Again, I've used the word utterly for emphasis. He wasn't just uninterested, he was utterly uninterested. Now I feel like my heart has been shattered into a million pieces. This is an example of a simile, saying I feel like my heart hasn't really been shattered into a million pieces, but I feel like that. So I'm using a simile to show my emotions. Here's another simile. I feel like a deflated balloon. So imagine a balloon that was all blown up and happy and then it just went, He was not the way a hero should be. So this is my example of a diary entry about meeting my hero but being disappointed. And I've done 2 paragraphs, but you can do as much as you like. I encourage you to write a whole page if you can, because if you have lots of emotions, you would probably have a lot to write about in your diary. Remember that the focus of the lesson is on using emotive language, so try to think about your word choices, what words will really make me understand how you're feeling. And don't just use boring words like I was sad, because that's not very emotive. It doesn't really tell me how sad you were. Better than sad is dreadful or devastated, those kinds of words. And then if I get some really good examples, I will be showing them in the shout outs at the end of the week in the writing video. But if you don't get featured in that video, you might even get featured in the whole school shout outs video, which comes out on the weekend. So try to do your best, all right? Now take 20 minutes to go and do your writing. Goodbye.